Ultimately, I want to be free. So I want to be able to kind of live on my own terms. I don't want to necessarily have to answer anybody else but myself. A lot of people I talk to kind of resonate with that.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like my big drive in terms of why I do what I do. That's why I do my newsletter. This is why I talk to people. That's my main thing, is just freedom over everything.
All right, here we go. Ken Guient, welcome to the Seeds of Success podcast. Pleasure to have you on.
Man, it is a pleasure to be here, man. I'm looking forward to this. I've
Yeah,
been
me too, man. And for the audience here, Ken and I, we have spoken once over the phone, and this is the second time that we've ever connected. Ken is somebody who we got connected on the big wild world of social media. And it's been a pleasure to connect here. Ken is an entrepreneur, solopreneur individual. So, we resonated on a whole bunch of things. And he's grown a pretty cool channel, Driven Impact, which has over 17,000 followers now on Instagram. So make sure you check it out. But he's also grown his own thing. And we brought Ken on to the Seeds of Success here today to dive into his newsletter. So for all those, aspiring you know, aspiring newsletter authors or wanting to grow something of your own, it's going to be an awesome podcast for you. So, Ken, why don't you go ahead and let the audience know kind of just who you are and how you got started with your newsletter?
Oh man, okay, that was a good intro. I appreciate that.
You bet, man.
Uh, but yeah, so my name's Ken Guient. Right now, currently, I'm a digital writer. My main channel right now is my newsletter. As Colin said, I have a Driven Impact page of 17K where I originally started to do just motivational posts, and it's kind of grown a little bit too. And I kind of use that just to kind of talk to people and see what they're all about and their goals. Me personally, I love talking about that. As I told Colin before, I love just conversations in general about what moves people and what makes an impact on their lives. And I'm, hoping to do the same for everybody else. And I love it.
So you say what moves people. What
Mhm.
what moves you?
So for me, ultimately, I want to be free. So I want to be able to kind of live on my own terms. I don't want to necessarily have to answer anybody else but myself. A lot of people I talk to kind of resonate with that.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like my big drive in terms of why I do what I do. That's why I do my newsletter. This is why I talk to people. That's my main thing, is just freedom over everything.
Very nice. So just to set the stage a little bit for those who don't know you, so give us your current state, right? So your ideal state is this time freedom, this personal autonomy, being able to craft your own days, your own weeks, your own year, and therefore life, right? On your own terms. Where are you now? And how are you planning to get to where you want to go with this state of autonomy?
No, definitely, definitely. Good question. So currently I work a 9 to 5. I would say I work probably, as of recently, I probably work closer to 55 to 60 hours, just with some things going on with work. But on a regular basis, I'm probably working about 40 hours. And then when I'm on my downtime, when I'm not doing that, I'm typically writing on Instagram. So the idea is to provide value more than anything.
Mhm.
I have insights on personal development, which I've been writing about and just working in general on the side, literally on the side since I've had a job. I've been working on this literally on the side. And I just talk about personal development in general. And I see where people are having the probably the biggest struggle, and I typically just have conversations about that. And at this stage in my life and in my entrepreneur journey, in my solopreneur journey, I'll just say that right now I have, I want to say, about 10 testimonials, which was kind of my goal in terms of people I've helped, either on the personal development side or even the content side. And one thing I am finding is that people want to ask me more about the content stuff too. So I'm actually trying to find a way to blend them together. But right now, I've kind of gotten those testimonials and I'm trying to package things together to see who I can help and who needs that help. That's kind of been the big research right now. Right now, I'm in this market research kind of era. From there, I plan to have something for people to kind of have them hit their goals, whether it be on that creation side or that personal development side. And from there, I want that to replace my income. Don't get me wrong, I love my job. I like what I do. I help a lot of people.
No
For
doubt.
those who don't, yeah, for those who don't know, I work in the medical field, and I'm a podorthist, so I'm essentially a pharmacist for foot doctors. So if a foot doctor writes you a prescription to get something, you wouldn't go to a pharmacy, you would come to me. So that's what I do, full time. And don't
Mhm,
get me wrong, I love it, and I'm helping people.
mhm,
But I do truly feel like the writing is my passion, and helping people through that is my passion. And from there, I just simply plan on just I want to impact a million lives more than anything.
mm,
And with this whole thing, I want to impact a million lives. That's my biggest dream right now. And I plan to do that. I would say I'm planning on doing this for at least half of my life. So that's about 25 years. I literally was calculating this today. I plan to at least put half my life into this, at least half. So that's at least 25 years from now. And I tell people you got to think long term for the stuff that you're wanting to
mhm,
do. So
mhm.
that's been my also part of my driver too. But yeah, it's something I can definitely see getting out of. If I want to get out the quote unquote rat race, I can definitely see it getting out well under 10 years. Actually my job will probably change a little bit because I'm actually going to take some time off my job to focus on this. So
Oh, wow.
I'm trying to do everything I can to expedite it
Yeah.
without burning out,
Yeah,
and
no
and
doubt.
I'm loving every step of it. It's
Yeah.
been fun, and I'm learning a lot about myself too.
Well, I mean, just to put that in perspective, it's 7:49 p.m. your time. We're 3 hours time difference, and this was like a easy no brainer to jump on the podcast and record it. And in your words, this is nothing. So I know
Mhm.
the grind outside of work and putting in the work, putting in the hours. And man, I there's so many different questions that I have and routes that we can go. And even just based off, from our first conversation, like so many things that I wasn't even thinking about from the first time that we spoke. My One of the things I am curious about, I'm sure the audience is too, is so when you say you have 10 testimonials, do you have clients, or like are you a coach, or is this just people that are following your newsletter and they're like, hey, this is amazing stuff. Like they're reading it for free technically, but then you are impacting them based off of the writing that you're doing. Like, what does that actually mean? The 10 testimonials that you have?
So the 10 testimonials was mostly part of the goal, one of my goals that I wanted, just to see if there was something I even had viable to the market. I think everybody should do
Uh,
that.
mhm.
The way I acquired them, or actually the way I've acquired them as in the people, between just talking to them and them interacting with my content. So that would be either my IG page or my newsletter. So
Yep.
I talk to them one way or another, and they needed help with something.
Mhm.
They saw I was doing something and they needed my help on that, right? At least a short term,
Yep.
win. I'll just put it that way. And I was able to give them that win just over a call, over I'd say about an hour call. I gave them a demo. Majority of them, like I said, ended up being more about the content space and actually, making content for the same type of content I make. So I make a lot of personal development content.
Mhm.
Majority of the calls, I'm not even gonna lie, have been asking me how to do that, how to structure content about
Yep.
personal development. Don't get me wrong, I love personal development, but that's kind of seems like an opportunity to pivot. And I'd encourage people, if you see an opportunity to pivot, actually consider it.
Mhm.
So where I haven't been getting as many personal development, people as I would hope, they're still technically personal development, but they're asking about content, and that's where majority of them are. So I wouldn't say that they're clients, but they are testimonials. And I would say when you have those testimonials, that's how you leverage those testimonials on your if you have like an offer or some way that you're helping people, you use those testimonials to leverage that.
Yeah,
You
no
leverage
doubt.
the testimony.
Yep. So you
Absolutely.
you basically got started with something that you were passionate about, the personal development, the writing, the newsletter, and the IG page. And then that has transpired into people actually, of course, coming to the content, initially being attracted to the personal dev and self-help type content you're putting out. But then they're, getting aspirations and ideas and potential inspirations about actually producing their own content. And they're like, well, yeah, Ken, you're doing it. How can I do that? Basically is how it sounds like it's forming. So
Yeah.
yeah, is that sound about
No,
accurate?
no, no,
Kinda
that's very
do
accurate, and
both.
it's just not it's not expected either. You
Yeah.
go into these things thinking that, things are gonna go one way, but, this is something that Justin Welsh talked about, because where he was talking about SaaS and all this other stuff on LinkedIn, people were asking him how to do content,
Right.
and I'm finding that that's actually happening, even though I really was going into this for the motivation, the personal development, life hacks, all that stuff.
Mhm.
It really does seem to be an opportunity to pivot here. So,
Mhm.
no, you described it perfectly.
And
Absolutely.
for those listening and watching this, you probably already know who Justin Welsh is, but for those who don't, he's basically like, the godfather of LinkedIn, I would say, and like how to
Definitely.
grow on LinkedIn and how to grow your newsletter. So he's big writer on LinkedIn, newsletter, Twitter, etc. So definitely check him out if you're into this type of stuff. And so I know Ken and I chatted about Justin Welsh for probably like 25 of our 30 minutes that we chatted the
Oh
other day.
man.
So yeah, man. Um, okay, so quick question. A lot of people listening to this, myself included, have full-time jobs, love doing the content, the writing, the production, the creation on the side. How do you go about actually structuring your day-to-days? Or maybe it's like you think about it by the week. Like, I know, just talking to you earlier, Tuesdays are like your day to write, or you try to get as much done on Tuesdays because the rest of your week is busy. Or how do you think about planning your weeks, and then how do you actually go execute in order to consistently produce content and write?
Yeah, definitely. So I will say this. Let me just preface this by saying this works for any type of content that you want to do. If it's short
Fair,
form, long form, it works for anything.
fair.
But I typically structure everything I have, and I do it all within basically 2 days. And I allot myself a certain amount of time in those days to do it.
Mhm.
I know it sounds simple, but that's really what you have to do. I don't do any kind of fly by night, try to guess what I'm going to write about or anything.
Right.
Or if you're someone who does a YouTube, you want to think, oh, what am I going to actually, do a video on. You don't want to be just kind of doing that. That's it's kind of counterproductive. So one thing I learned from Justin Welsh and then just kind of applied it to my own and made my own version of it is you definitely want to have a day for ideation, curation, actually coming up with the ideas. You have to do that. Like if you don't, you're simply just going to run out of ideas. So you definitely want to set time aside for that. For me personally, it's about an hour out of the week to do that, to come
Okay.
up with at least
When
five
do
or
you do
more.
that?
Usually on Wednesdays. I actually do
Okay.
that on Wednesdays. So I take an
Okay.
hour out of my day, whether it's early in the morning or late at night. Somewhere in that hour, I am doing that. So I will say generally I'm doing it in the morning just because I just woke up and I can just
Fresh.
kind of go right into the research, right?
Yeah.
Because typically I have work like within a few hours. So I would suggest doing something like that in the morning. Set a day aside for it where you don't do nothing about your content but that.
Mhm.
Literally just curate.
Yep.
And so I'll say in the example of my newsletter, I will do the rough draft of my newsletter and the research for my newsletter typically Monday mornings.
Mhm.
I'll typically do that. And that typically takes me anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I block out that time. And so where I work in the middle of the day, maybe I can do an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening,
Mhm.
right? Or
Mhm.
maybe I don't do anything in the morning and maybe 2 hours to the evening. But no matter what, I do it on that day. I
Right.
do that on Monday. And some Mondays, if I'm really feeling lucky, I will absolutely do like one of my threads or carousels on Instagram. So I'll actually do one of those typically the same day if I'm really feeling like lucky, like, oh, I got my newsletter done in a decent time. Let me do this.
Mhm.
And then I will say on Tuesdays, I usually use that to write all my posts out. So typically I do about 5 posts, not yeah, 5 posts, not including the thread. So I'll do 5 posts. Those will typically take, I mean, with some research, will probably take generally about 2 hours altogether. But I'll say this just in terms of the amount of content I'll come up with and really just looking at it from a psychological standpoint, I'll say that the 2 hours are definitely warranted. I probably could do them a little quicker than that, but it's definitely warranted. But what actually helps me with my content is that the content in terms of the short form and the threads, so like my posts and stuff, all that actually comes from my newsletter.
Right.
So anytime you look on my page and you see a tweet or any kind of post, chances are it was in my newsletter first. And
Repurposed
that's
content.
is repurposed content,
Yep.
right? So what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these writers, a lot of these creators are doing all these, they're chopping up everything throughout the course of a week.
Mhm.
Now, the way I was taught to do it was to do it straight throughout the week. When I actually got really serious about it, do it throughout the week. But with my schedule, I decided to just kind of dial it all in into about 3 days if you count the
Yeah.
curation day.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, this can literally go for, if you're doing YouTube and you want to do like shorts or reels as a repurpose, you can do that. You just simply have to have the time to script, the time to shoot, the time to edit, and of course to post.
Mhm.
But anything you do, it works for any kind of media. I just do writing because it's a very simple form, and
Mhm.
just about anything you've ever consumed was most likely written first.
Written.
So I chose writing.
Yeah. And I think I know you and I touched on this previously, but writing is at like the core of content, right? You're
Hmm.
looking at a YouTube video, most likely that there was a script written for what you are seeing that was produced on
100%.
a video, right? The
100%.
newsletter, a LinkedIn post, and Instagram captions, right? Like it's just all like like delivering a clear and concise message typically happens with the beginning of in the written form. So you sound very, very structured, very process oriented, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, basically, you're just giving
That's it.
yourself basically an hour time block at a time
Mhm.
to
I don't even
do.
take calls. I don't even take calls at those times, like,
Mm.
at all.
When you say take
No,
calls, what do you mean take calls?
like,
Like
if
going back to
so,
your testimonial?
a testimonial or someone, like, I had someone reach out to me, like, randomly, never talked to them before, and they had scheduled a call because they just wanted to, they just wanna get some ideas on how to do, what I do. And they wanted to start like their own personal brand and they wanted help
Mhm.
with content. So they reached out to me. And
Mm.
this is someone who I never talked to. Like, I never said, hey, just book a call with me. I never did that. They literally went to my page, went to my highlight, found where it says 1-to-1, and they clicked and booked a call, just to chat. And yeah, I don't even take calls on Mondays and Tuesdays just because those days I'm dedicated to
Love it.
literally
You have your
getting the
focus.
content out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
have your focus, you have your plan, and
Mhm.
you have the blocks that are there, and then you go execute them. It's pretty phenomenal in this world that where we can be so distracted in so many different things. And that's, one thing, even just relating that to like my
Mhm.
sales job, right? Is basically like for those most people know that I work at DocuSign in software sales currently. And if I'm
Mhm.
doing prospecting, like actually dialing, like making dials in a time block, shut Slack off, shut
Yep.
email off.
Yep.
Everything is off. I have a work mode on my phone where it's like no
Mhm.
incoming text messages are allowed. It blocks everything. And it's just is like 60 minutes dialing. And so similar boat to you. Question real quick, Ken.
Yeah, go for it.
Are you are those paid calls? Like, are people like you have the an offer on your page to for a one-on-one consultation? Is that a
Mhm.
service that you offer? And
That, yeah, yeah, okay.
oh,
Oh,
okay.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just curious what your I don't know if I actually clarified that with you previously. Is that what your value proposition is a one-on-one consultation to talk about either personal development and or the content creation is what it's like spinning, to be, but
Right.
so that's a paid service?
Well, actually, at the moment, it's not actually, so anybody that wants in, they definitely can. It's not paid
That's
yet
what you were
because
saying about market fit. If there was a
right.
fit for the market. Got it.
Exactly,
Got it. Proof
exactly.
of
So right now
concept.
I'm doing it for free and it's not
Yeah.
costing me anything really to do it. And it's not like, I'm not in dire need of money, right? So
Mhm.
if I want to see how the
Do it.
best way I can help people, this is the way to do it. Just offer to do it for free. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to get some people that, you talk to them and they're going to be like, no, no, thank you. And it's, that's fine. There's plenty of fish in the sea. And you don't even have to, the thing is, I think Dan Code calls it non-needy networking, right?
Mm.
So a lot of these talks I've had with people, sure, they giving me testimonials, and they may have done something for me, and and I
Totally.
gave them a testimonial. So
Totally.
that works too. But again, you able to leverage this and build a network. Once you have a bunch of them, and then you can call on these people and say, "Hey, I have a product coming out. Do you want to test drive it
Yep.
before I release it?" And then before you know it, you have people that will be fine to do that. And these people, I think I already had decided, like, if I came out with like an ebook or something, I'll probably just give it to them for free just to see what they say and see if it's something that actually helps them. And if it does, then I know it's pretty decent, because to be fair, these people who I've gotten the testimonials from, they fit a lot of the people that I end up talking to anyway.
Mhm.
Like, seriously. So I know, in terms of product market fit, I know if they're gonna like it, then I know I'm good.
This is super interesting. I'm just throwing it out there. I know people are listening and watching this, and we should almost do an episode 2 of this, and do a walkthrough of your website is where my head is at. Like, literally do a screen share, and we could walk through what it looks like, how people, because I think a lot of individuals that are listening to this, besides my mother, just because she really supports everything I do and she has no
Yes.
interest in writing a newsletter,
That's
and
my wife.
and my dad and fiance. But other than that, if somebody's actually listening to this episode, then they're probably interested in building a sales funnel, building marketing collateral, building a testimonial base to actually, help with product market fit, what their value contribution can be to the market, and everything that you're doing. And I'm, in a similar boat. I have one paid client right now who we work on basically like life coaching, success coaching type of stuff. I didn't know if I wanted to do that type of coaching. And
Mm,
so, I thought that he would be a perfect person to reach out to. And so I actually worked with him for 6 weeks for free. And then at that point, we actually talked about what it would look like from a financial perspective moving forward. And he was all about it, saw
mm.
tremendous value in those first 6 weeks. And we've been working together ever since. And we're approaching a year mark at this point. So it's like
Wow.
a similar story though, is, doing upfront work for free and testing a couple things. One, do we like doing what we're doing? And two, is there a market fit for it? Like, would people actually find value and then actually pay us for it? Being three. So,
Mm,
so I think you're doing things the right way, and it's also giving you some clarity on what to focus on. How did you? I feel like another problem, not problem, another obstacle and challenge that we face as creators and writers and producers is narrowing the niche, right?
mm.
And I come from, I love endurance sports, big time runner and endurance athlete. I love
Yes.
sales and business. I love
Mm,
traveling and life, and I love the content stuff. And, it's been hard for me to like really niche down, but I totally see the value inherently that will affect your growth when you are able to just, really focus on
right.
growing something. How did you decide on personal development? And do you have like a specific niche in personal development? Or how did you actually decide on that?
Well, so the personal development came from me doing the Driven Impact page, because that started as a theme page over anything. That was a theme page before I even decided to do any of this writing and stuff.
Yep.
So that kind of spearheaded me into thinking, well, maybe I can make separate types of content. I didn't want to. I haven't put my face on Driven Impact yet, so I was like, well, maybe I can build maybe a personal brand, talking about uh motivation and all this other stuff, because I've seen other
Right.
people do it, find success. Why not? And so I would say, I wouldn't even say I'm completely niche down, only because if you think about how Dan Coe says, you are the niche. So you can
Mm.
have those different interests, and you're still going to attract the people with those similar interests, like, no matter what. I think, along the lines, if you feel like there is an opportunity to pivot to a specific niche, I think that's okay,
Mhm.
especially if you see the opportunity. So for me, when I niche down, it's becoming more for creators. I'm still
Right.
going to talk about creating stuff and still talk about personal development.
Mhm.
Shoot, majority of my stuff may still be personal development as I make as I do my own business journey, I will incorporate, business stuff into my content. So, and that will most likely be for creators. And I could niche down again and go to solopreneurs, from there if I feel like there's a need to really pivot. But I don't think niching down like right away, unless you're just an expert and you got the skills with specific people, like you just talk to those people and that's just where you resonate. I really don't think you should just niche down. I really think it's okay to just keep your options open and just see what's happening. Because you'll get that if you should pivot, it's going to present itself.
Mhm.
It's going to. And then there's times where you do that pivot and you're still talking about other stuff anyway. So
Yeah. And I think, similar to like a Gary V, right?
mhm,
He talks about like you being the brand. And I think that it is like for you, you have started pivoting, right?
mhm.
And or at least like this is
I will
what the
be. Yeah.
market is telling you. This is what people are telling you, like, or what people are interested in from the value they're
Right.
getting from your content, right? So
Mhm.
you're testing and then getting feedback and then able to make like data driven decisions from there or educated pivot points. And so, for me, it's like important to make sure that people know who I am and know my personality and the things I enjoy doing, but also that they're continuing to get value from what we're putting out here as
Exactly.
well. So, um,
Exactly.
switching gears. So monetization, right? How did you first think about monetization when you started writing, and were you thinking about it at all? And then where are you now with your monetization strategy?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I wasn't even sure how to monetize. I thought for the longest time you just had to put out courses and stuff like that. But if I were to think about it in that context, I was like, well, I wouldn't know what I'd do a course about. Just
Mhm.
that simple.
Mhm.
Even though I was doing personal
Yeah.
development stuff, I wasn't even thinking about doing a personal development course. So when it came to that monetization, I really didn't think about it. I kind of just let things kind of go and
Mhm.
just see what happens.
No doubt.
I had structure. I knew what I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to see what I could put out there. And I just believed, I don't want to say it was on a whim, but I wanted to just believe that something would just catch my attention in terms of how to monetize. So I decided to choose a long form content place and a short form content place. Long form being my newsletter, short form being my Instagram because
Instagram.
I was pretty proficient at it anyway. So I was like, yeah, just do Instagram. I think everybody should do that. You should have one long form place to nurture your audience, and you should have a short form. You should have a short form that at least gives you the option to DM people. I
Mhm.
think that's super important
Mhm.
because that helps build relationships as well. But using those two and then just kind of keeping a consistent system, I was able to start monetizing my newsletter because I started getting traffic, and then on top of that, other opportunities opened up to where I can do sponsorships with people, or I can promote their stuff in my newsletter, which I
Mhm.
didn't even think about that. It like hit me like a brick. I didn't even think about that. So right now the newsletter is getting monetized off of the traffic end of my newsletter. Nothing else really. Like I don't promote anything necessarily in my newsletter. I don't even promote my own services. I actually don't even have a paid service that I do for anybody that
Mhm.
I currently promote
That's why I
right
was
now.
so confused when you were talking about taking calls and having testimonies. I was like, wait a minute. I hadn't seen anything in the newsletter. I hadn't like heard about it. Okay. So then like where did you start intentionally going out and seeking sponsorships or seeking ways to promote other newsletters, or is this something that came to you, or how did you go about this process?
So I'll say this, it more or less came to me because I was already using ConvertKit. You can also use like beehiiv because I think they have their own thing in terms of how to monetize. But I was using ConvertKit and they have a thing called the Creator Network. You do have to pay, like you can't do it on the free plan. Free
Mhm.
plan's good, but you can't do the Creator Network on the free plan.
Yeah.
And I just paid for it for a year because I just wanted to invest it in a year and see where we get to in a year.
Yep. Nice.
So the Creator Network lets you promote other people's newsletter and they can promote yours.
Mm.
So when someone if someone were to go to thedrivenimpact.com, right, and they click to subscribe, you'll see recommendations pop up. So those recommendations, you can sign up with just one click of the button. You can sign up to those recommendations. So the paid part comes in that there's a partnership out there, Spark Loop, I believe it's called, where creators who have bigger newsletters want people to promote them. So where you would see those recommendations after signing up, some of those might be paid recommendations. And I would get paid if you sign up for them and stay with them for a while.
Mm.
So I get paid on that. And
So
so they also
they need
give
to
you
stay
also
with them too?
stay with them for I don't know the time frame. I want to say it's got to be like at least until the next issue or a whole week or something like
Oh,
that.
okay. Oh, that's
But
reasonable.
but there's like there's actual
Mhm.
time frame that they have to stay with you,
Yep.
because it doesn't even show up on my thing until they've
Makes
stayed
sense.
that time.
Mm.
So and that's just one way that I'm exploring. And that's been pretty okay, but that monetizes based off of the traffic that I'm getting, not the number of subscribers I currently have.
Got it.
So when it comes to how many subscribers I currently have, that's probably when I would, reach out to people, say, hey, I can promote you in my letter. How much, I have this much of an audience, I have this much of an open rate. People will love if you, even if you get like 1,000 subscribers on a 50% open rate, people will definitely look at you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it's absolutely worth it.
Nice. Okay. So then how so there's a couple different ways that you could go about monetizing. This is one of them. Another one being, say coaching services, or
Mhm.
you build like a digital product that
Right,
you embed then within your newsletter, sponsorships, as you were just alluding to.
right.
What are some of your next steps you're thinking about for like the next 90 to 180 days here from a growth strategy when we're talking monetizing?
For a growth, so my main focus is crazy. It's gonna sound funny, but my main focus right now isn't even the monetizing part. That monetizing is like very passive. I don't really have to
Yep.
do anything for it to happen. So that's why I went that route. The whole recommendation thing, I went that
Mhm.
route because I didn't have to just go and pick and choose and all this
Just
other
want to
stuff.
write.
Yeah, I just want to write. So
Yep.
it's very, 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 very passive.
Mhm.
So my current goals now really are to just grow the newsletter. So I will say that one of the biggest ways I have grown the newsletter is that I only promote my newsletter. Like that's
Mhm.
literally the only link you see on my page. That's
Mhm.
literally the only link you see. That's the only place I lead anybody to.
Yep.
That's the only thing I promote in my stories is literally my newsletter. So if your newsletter isn't growing, that could be one reason, is that you're not promoting it enough and you're telling people to go to all these other places as well as your newsletter.
Yep.
But where my main focus is my newsletter, that's the only place I tell them to go. And then within my newsletter, again, I don't really have anything to sell necessarily. I just have like here's a couple of ways I can help you. So I have my navigation call, which is the calls that I've been doing, a navigation call, which is absolutely free. And I have that if people wanted to promote on my other page, they can, but I'm not even promoting that as much right
Mhm.
now. It's really just about the growth and everything else. And if I see something, seem to pop off in terms of, people are hitting this particular link and stuff like that, I may change things around. But no, it's really just the growth, the simple growth strategy of promoting the newsletter. I think that's where a lot of people fall off, is they don't
Yep.
promote it. They promote all these other
The
things
fundamentals.
with the newsletter. I'm like, just promote the newsletter, because they'll get like
Yeah.
not trying to, no shade on Linktree, but and I used to have one, but
I
I
did
don't
too.
even do
I
the.
recently switched and I
It's
only
like I don't
put
do
the
it.
newsletter link to it.
Just a
I
newsletter,
switched.
just newsletter,
Yep.
because that causes a analysis paralysis, and people
Mhm.
won't necessarily sign up to your newsletter. They may do something else. Sure, they may even buy your paid product, but honestly, it's like you're giving them a whole lot of choices. So
Mhm.
I'd rather just not have them have all those choices and just say, hey, just follow the
Mhm.
newsletter. This is where you're going to get the most value. If you like my writing here, you're going to like the newsletter, and that makes sense because all my content again comes from my newsletter, so it
No
only
doubt.
makes sense.
Yep. Sales fundamentals, make it easy to buy from. And,
Mm.
or in this case, make it easy with one click to sign up. Yeah. Cause I same thing. I had a link tree and then it would take you to 6 different links. It had YouTube, Instagram, TikTok,
I'm
newsletter,
like,
and
no.
I'm like, man, because it's tough. And so I think the key takeaway is simple focus, right? And
Mhm.
making it super easy to understand what is the message and what do you want people to do, right?
Yes.
And so they're
Oh,
coming to
man.
your page for personal development. Here's the button to click to subscribe to the newsletter and learn more and get it delivered straight to them.
Mhm.
So I had a couple questions that back to process oriented, it just crossed my mind again.
Yeah, yeah.
When you actually sit down to do your curation process and
Mm,
your ideation process, what does that process look like for you? Like what are you actually
mm.
doing?
So this is actually quite simple. So I have a, I guess you could say a bank or whatever, but I have a list of people on all the platforms that I typically follow or I am subscribed to. So that's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. I'm following these people that are doing similar things to me.
Yeah.
So I'll say for YouTube, if I want to say curate an idea from YouTube, I will go to the the creator, right? Go on their page, I will filter it out by most viewed.
Hmm.
And typically the most viewed stuff is their most viral stuff. So that will give you some ideas on what's going to do really good. And for me, when I say viral, I mean like these people have say 100K subscribers and that video hit like 200K views.
Hmm.
So for YouTube, I'll go to YouTube and do that. Pretty easy way. Typically, I'd say you can find anywhere between 5 to 7 or 8, depending on how long that person's been on YouTube. And then sometimes I'll look through my email. So I get a lot of newsletters as it is that I subscribe to. And if I see that these are things that I too can talk about, then I will typically, I have a label in my Gmail purely for curating ideas.
Just
So if it's
drag and
something that
drop them in
just
there.
dragging in there, yeah, just
Yep.
dragging in there. I may read it first and then drag it, or I may read
Yeah.
it later after it's in there. But that's a spot I can go for curation.
Nice.
For Twitter, there's some extensions you can use. I believe I use Tweet Hunter, and that'll show me the best performing tweets of whoever I want to put in there.
Hmm.
And honestly, and if you follow somebody, you can just probably you can scroll through some of their tweets and see, which ones you like.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of people on Twitter. So the Twitter one can get overwhelming just because there's a lot of people on Twitter that I emulate in terms of liking their content and how they write
Yeah.
and their styles and stuff. So not only do I curate for my curation ideas, but I also structure my stuff similar to these people that I find. So I'll be on Twitter much longer because the content that if you look at my page, it's all tweet based.
Yep.
So I'll spend way more time on Twitter. But I'd say the email and the YouTube are definitely really good places. I really love the email simply because it's curated to you already.
Hmm.
Like it's already curated to you. So
Hmm.
if it's something that you would talk about, which majority of them probably will, you just drag and drop.
So my takeaway here is in order to generate ideas and of course creators, you, myself, anyone else who's a creator listening to this, so many ideas come to us, right? Going through our day to
Mhm.
day, we're out on a walk, we're in the gym, whatever, we're driving, like we're going to get ideas. However, in order to have basically just like this endless bucket to be able to pull from when we are strapped, and we have to come up with something like this is where a bucket of your ideas that you've already curated is going to be so valuable for you that you can just pull
Mhm.
from that also has context associated to those ideas. And so my takeaway is basically go read and go watch the things you already read and watch that is relevant to the content that you're interested
Right.
in creating, and don't reinvent the wheel. Basically, go take all
Mm-mm.
the things you love learning about in the first place and then just go stockpile them for your own use, and then but putting your own spin on it in the
Put
future
your own
too.
spin on it.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. And I
Um,
have a spot, like I literally have a place in Notion where all these ideas are written down. So anytime I see something new that I hadn't seen before, but it's something I want to write about, it's like, yeah, I'll just type it up in Notion and it'll just stay there until I get to that particular idea. It's literally a checklist. It's literally a
mhm.
checklist. So if I were to open my Notion right now, you would see a checklist of all the things I've already written about
I'm telling
already.
you right now, we're gonna do an episode 2, and we're gonna screen share. We're gonna look at your calendar. We're gonna look at whatever you're comfortable doing, but calendar, Notion, your Gmail, your website, the newsletter, like, and on we're doing that because I'm so interested in seeing it. So selfishly, that's why I want to do it. And I mean, I get super like nerdy on this stuff. I'll like those are probably my most favorite videos to go watch on YouTube is like
Same.
what do people's calendars look like? Like what do their time blocks literally say? How much time is in between them? How much time are they allotting? Like it's all
Right.
those things I think are super interesting. Just how individuals leverage their time, right? And how they plan their
Mm,
attack and then attack their plan is basically how I'm always like thinking about what other individuals are doing. So it sounds like you got
no,
your
definitely.
systems pretty dialed in here, Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So, well, with that, we can go ahead and roll into the final 4 questions, which I'm sure some more conversations will stem from, no doubt. And this one, I was mentioning it to you. We got a final 4, and the first one, it used to be, what was your favorite book? And then it transitioned into people giving me all sorts of answers from podcasts to YouTube to newsletters to books to Instagram reels to whatever. So, Ken, where do you love to learn, or like what are some of your go-to resources for learning? Obviously, we've talked about Dan Coe, Justin Welsh, but just
Yeah.
just give me something that come to the top of your mind here.
Oh man. So I will say that. So if so, I'm generally consuming the content of Justin Welsh, Danco, and Matt Gray. So whatever socials that they're on, I'm typically there seeing
Yep.
what new stuff they put out. Now the person I like the most out of those three doesn't have a YouTube, and that's Justin Welsh.
Mm,
So the only way you can get anything from him literally is either his newsletter, which is
mhm.
short and sweet, just like mine, and I love it,
Yep.
or any podcast interviews he's done.
Mhm.
He's probably my number one, and I love the stuff he's put out. It's the basis of a lot of what I do,
Yeah.
and it's made my content much easier for sure. And I'm also a visual learner too, so I would prefer YouTube
Mhm.
over anything. And it sounds crazy, but even though I like to write, I like writing more than I used to. I'm not big on reading.
Mm,
So where I like to see short and sweet text, that's I'll typically go there. But typically if it's visual, I will absolutely go there. And like I said, Dan Code, Justin Welsh, Matt Gray are like my top three. So wherever they are, there that's where I'm at. Podcast, emails, I'm on all of their
yep.
emails.
Yep. Yep. Same.
So that's literally what I'm consuming. And anyone that does anything similar to that solopreneur stuff, that's usually where you'll find me.
Mhm. So, I mean, classic takeaway is you're consuming the content of individuals who are doing what
Mhm.
you're aspiring to do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
remind me, you've done the LinkedIn operating course
No,
that
I've done
just
the content system. I've done the content system one
got it.
for Justin Wells. I probably could just do the LinkedIn one too, if I'm really feeling it.
Yeah. You write on
'Cause you can
LinkedIn too?
I don't well, technically I do, but it's
Yeah.
because it's just a push of a button for me to post the same thing I put on
Easy.
Instagram. So it's
Mhm.
just a push of a button. It's literally it's an icon. I use Metricool. So when the icons are lit up, it'll post there. So Instagram's already lit up. I can just press for Facebook and then press for LinkedIn, and then the same stuff goes straight to them too. So it's
Wait,
not
I'm
even
sorry. Can you say the name of that app one more time?
that's
Metricool?
Metricool. Metricool.
Metricool? Oh,
Metricool.
yeah. I don't see a pen around here, so I'm going
It's
to
I could
shoot.
definitely send it to you. It's
Yeah,
Metricool.
that is such a game changer, and shame on me for not even knowing about it. So I'm sure that just helped so many people. Yeah,
It's amazing. It's an amazing
wow,
tool. I've
that's
been using
insane.
it for oh gosh, 'cause I back when I was really into doing agency stuff, I
Mm,
was using it, and yeah, it's powerful, and it's only gotten better. I
wow.
think the only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't give you any analytics for LinkedIn, but it gives you analytics for everything else.
Mhm.
So it's amazing.
That's crazy. I mean, The only other thing it's not doing is actually writing your content for you, is
Yeah.
what it sounds like. It sounds like it's the automated virtual assistant that every solopreneur could benefit from. Cool.
Definitely.
Metric cool. Second question is your favorite quote.
Oh man. So when I started writing, I came across one from Stephen Furtick, which he's a pastor
Yeah.
of one of the bigger churches
Yep.
out there. And it came across as a quote just for because it was relevant to what I was writing at the time. And it says, your perspective will either be your prison or your passport.
Mm,
I was like, man, that
so
is
good.
really good. I was like,
So
and that
good.
came from him. Oh man. I was like, man, that was really good.
Wow. Just
So
the
it's kind of
power
stuck
of
with
the
me.
mind, man. The power of the
It's
mind.
very true because
Yeah.
when the way you see stuff, if you change that, then the way you see things actually does change. So
Mhm.
mindset and perspective, as cliche as it sounds, it is everything because it's literally how you see everything.
Mhm.
So I'm a firm believer of that. A firm believer.
I love it. And you have the power of the choice.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm like just getting started learning more about stoicism. I've always, seen Ryan Holiday around and, mingled in a book here and there. But I have a sales coach who highly suggested leaning in towards stoicism and at least giving it a shot. And so I got the Daily Stoic, been on that
Yeah,
for about a
been on
week,
that.
been loving it. You do it too? You
Yeah, yeah,
read
I'm
it?
on it. Yeah.
Nice, man. Okay. I got Discipline is Destiny. It used to be like right around here, but I got Discipline is Destiny, and I want to read the Stoicism series, like the first series he put out with Obstacle is the Way. That book is I listened to the audiobook like years ago, and it's just so applicable to everything we go through when it comes to challenges and
100%.
setbacks. And I'm like trying to work through this IT band issue with my running right now. And it's like that's the number one thing that I'm leaning into is the obstacle being the way. And we have to like, reframe, why this could be a good thing. And it's like just totally shifted the way I've approached this entire thing. And so very, very much leaning into that. I
That's
think it
good.
boils back to your quote there, the power of perspective. So I freaking love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%, man. That's awesome. I
Yeah, man.
love that.
Okay. Third one is what is a bucket list item for Ken here in this world that you got going, Ken?
I think the one thing like me and my wife always talk about, I think it's going to Italy. I think that's been the biggest
Ooh,
thing. I think that's
okay.
been the biggest thing we want. Selfish reasons, of course. I just love pasta.
Oh, let's go.
I have to admit, I love pasta like more than anything. Like that would be the main reason to go, like just to experience that pasta for a whole week or something.
Oh
Just
yeah. It's
just doing
amazing.
that. Oh my gosh. Cause it's just certain things you can get over there. You're not going to be able to get here. Definitely not in Florida, or even
Mhm.
if you even go to New York or Chicago, you're not going to get
Yep.
it's authentic over there. So that's probably been the biggest place I've wanted to go. Maybe a few other things here and there, but that's definitely the biggest place I want to go.
Do you have
Biggest
any
place.
idea where specifically in Italy?
Probably Rome.
Yeah.
Probably Rome more than anywhere. Yeah. Got like there's a lot of I know it's very touristy and stuff like that, but there's a lot to see, within Rome.
Oh yeah.
Obviously if I can go some other places, I probably would, but Rome I think was the one that me and my wife had talked about probably the most.
Yeah, I sometimes I get a chuckle and maybe some will disagree with this, but people always tell me like, don't go here, don't go there because it's touristy. And I'm like, well, I'm a tourist. Like,
I'm a
I'm
tourist, like where else
like
I'm gonna
like
go?
yeah, like I want to go do the touristy things. There's a reason that all the tourists are
I'm
there because
going,
it's
I'm
all
a
the super
tourist.
cool stuff. It's like I live in Seattle and all the tourists want to come and go to Mount
Mm,
Rainier. And I'm like, yeah, because it's dope. Like Mount
yeah.
Rainier's sick. I want to go with you. Like, and I live here. So yeah, I feel like there's something to be said about like ingraining in the culture as well. And
Yeah.
and doing those things. But I feel you on at least wanting to do the touristy
Oh
things,
yeah.
at the very least, like not being like, apprehensive to doing them. So good for you, man. Yeah. My
It's like
fiance.
I want to step foot. As soon as I step foot, I want to eat, and then I'll do the
Yeah.
tourist stuff.
Yeah. Eat and then walk it off
You walk it off.
off so then you can eat again. It's like best
Exactly.
thing ever. Have a little cappuccino. This is my first time. We just went to Italy or like Europe this
Oh,
past summer for the first time, and
nice.
it was cool. We didn't do anything like we were in Italy, we were in the Dolomites, so it's just like just all the
Mm,
mountains, and so we
mountain
weren't actually. It
areas.
didn't feel like Italy when you think about like Cinque Terre or the Amalfi Coast or Rome
Mhm.
or anything
Or
like
Venice or anything like that. Yeah.
we did go to Venice for like a day. We got rerouted from Munich to Venice, and it was so freaking cool. It
Oh,
was like
I would love to go
amazing.
there.
Oh, dude, so cool, so cool. All right, we got
Awesome.
final question here, Ken, and it is something that my mentor asked me years ago when I was debating what to do from a career standpoint. And he asked me, he said, "What would 65-year-old Ken do?" Right. So if you could ask, that's basically it is what would 65-year-old Ken say to you right now? And it could be, you know, in regards to anything going on in your life.
Mm. Oh, I'm pretty sure he'd probably tell me to chill on the pasta because he's not feeling too good.
Oh yeah.
That's probably one thing. But I love this concept because just as a side note, but I love sci-fi in the sense of time travel. So this is like
Huh.
a real deep thing for
Yeah.
me. So yeah, I would say he would probably say thank you for going on and not stopping because I would have every reason not to do what I do, especially now and even back earlier when I first started like doing a lot of this stuff. Even back probably 2 years ago when I first like started the Driven Impact page, I had a lot of reasons not to really do any of it. So I think you would say thank you and keep going.
Mm,
Because whatever's going on at this particular moment, which he obviously would know because he'd be me, but whatever's going on at this particular moment is most likely temporary. Is most likely temporary. So, you know, get through it, push through it.
mhm.
Um, we have goals that we want to achieve. So if you want to achieve them, you're gonna have to go through some hard stuff. If it comes easy, it may not even be worth it if it comes too easy. So for the best stuff, you're gonna have to work a little hard.
No
And
doubt.
that's yeah, I can see that happening.
That obstacle is the way, and that perspective is your passport to go get to that 65-year-old you.
Right.
Yeah, man. Quick question. Last question, I swear. But Driven
That's good.
Impact. So you got over 17,000 followers on the channel starting just about 2 years ago. How
Mm,
did why did you start that thing? And how did you end up like how would you
mm.
describe getting to 17,000 in a matter of 2 years?
Well, I would have been a lot further too had it not dropped off. So originally, so I was pretty much your poster child for trying to make money online. Like I just
Mm,
about did a good chunk of it, like everything but like probably I think at the time I did everything but like coaching and social media management. I think I did everything but that. So I was going to try drop shipping, do the surveys and all the other stuff. I
yep.
did about all of it.
Yep.
Um, but I stumbled upon, making money with theme pages and just kind of over time I developed just different strategies, which that would have to be a whole video, just Instagram strategies alone.
Yeah.
um but I developed some strategies that kind of helped the page grow, and the page, I think while I was doing that, Instagram, I went through several different changes and stuff like that. And in the middle of that, probably I'd probably say at about the 6K stage, I kind of let some things go. So at the time, I'll just say it. So my dad had died, and I wasn't really as active on the page anymore. I'd like literally didn't post like for months, I don't think. And I kind of let the page go. Um, but I also realized, it could be an opportunity to, to generate some income, not even in a greedy way, but there were people I was always talking to on there and they were growing and stuff like that. So That's kind of where that started. It really was just I was going to just try to make some money with the page, but it ended up growing pretty quickly, and then kind of sustaining itself a little bit to where um, content was on there continuously, and I was able to kind of focus on some other ways to make money through there. Um, but I find that doing the personal brand works very well because I've built much deeper relationships just being me rather than someone behind an Instagram page.
Mhm.
I found that just being me, talking to people authentically, and just finding out what they're working on and what they're doing and struggles that they have, I find that works a lot better. I mean, I would bet everything that my engagement rate on my personal brand is probably 50 times better than it is on Driven Impact. But just because I've just learned how to, well, be social, I guess you could say, be
Mhm.
social on social media, not just trying to get views and all this other stuff, really just truly being social. And I can honestly say, with my personal brand, the King Guient page, I can honestly say, like, everybody I have on there for the most part is like pretty solid.
Mhm.
Is solid. I can't say that about Driven Impact. I
Mhm.
still talk to people, chat with some people and stuff like that, but on my personal brand, it's very solid. The engagement's much better. I talk to way more people. A lot more people see me, natively. And so yeah, that's kind of how it's grown to where it is now. And where I'm really putting a lot of focus into my personal brand and the newsletter. So yeah.
Well, first and foremost, I'm sorry to hear about your father. And secondly, is I mean, it's how we're talking here today, is because I saw you, Ken, like engaging with my page. You had a face to it, and I came onto your page and saw that you were putting out content that I resonated with and loved what you were about. And if it was Driven Impact with 17K followers, I wouldn't have thought twice, wouldn't have reached out. It was
No.
just, it's, I mean, to me, it's like a nobody. It's a cool page, right? And
Hmm.
and I don't mean any offense by that, this is like you as a
Yeah,
human,
right.
and here we are actually having a conversation because of that. And so I think that
Hmm.
there is power in that, and I think that you just hit the nail on the head when you talk about engagement being like that number one most important aspect, right? It doesn't matter how many followers you have or don't have. What matters is like, are they engaged with your content, and do they find value in what you're putting out? If you
Hmm.
ever do want to, monetize that, and like those are the numbers that people need to know, and you're actually able to impact people in that way, and
Absolutely.
so
Huge difference, huge difference.
yeah. Well, Ken, it's been a pleasure to have you on, man, and I appreciate you taking time at 8 p.m. at past 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for coming on to the Seeds of Success podcast. I'll make sure to link everything in the show notes, but go ahead and like if you want to just tell people where they can find you and spell out your Instagram handle and the newsletter where they can go to get connected with you.
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram, like Colin said. That's where he found me. So my Instagram handle is at KenGuient. So it's at Ken Gwent. Again, that's KenGuient. And then my newsletter is the Driven Impact newsletter at the moment. And the website is thedrivenimpact.com. I can try and spell it out. I can try and spell it out, but it's TheDrivenimpact.com.
Beautiful.
So
Yep.
absolutely. I love to see you. If you're looking for anything in terms of, you want to get some ways to optimize your life, that's my newsletter. If you see the content on my page and you like it, my newsletter is like that on steroids. So we'd
Beautiful.
love to have you. We'd love to have you in the community. Just reach out to me. My DMs are always open. That's why I tell people DMs are always open.
Go book that call with him. Be his 11th testimony there too. It sounds like there's some quality conversations going on. So
Absolutely.
cool. Well, Ken, it's been a pleasure, man, and really appreciate you coming on the show. And listeners and viewers, stay tuned for episodes 2 when we dive into the screen share, looking over his calendar, his inbox, his processes and systems. And then episode 3, when we dive into the Instagram strategies for growth and getting into it. So, all
That was my
right. Well,
favorite.
Ken, pleasure having you on, man. And we'll talk to you here soon.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.